Jeffrey Cheah grew up in Pusing, Perak, a small town shaped by tin mining. He saw what happened when a community depended heavily on one natural resource. Mining created jobs and wealth while the tin lasted, but once the minerals were exhausted, towns could be left with unemployment, poverty, and badly damaged. After studying accounting in Australia and returning to Malaysia, Cheah started a tin mining and quarry business in 1974 with 100,000 ringgit. This placed him inside the industry just as Malaysia's tin era was approaching a major decline. The business problem was simple. A mining company could extract value from a piece of land only while minerals remained beneath it. Once the tin ran out, the land often became a liability. Cheah's breakthrough was finding a way to make the same land valuable twice. First by extracting what was underneath it, then by building something entirely new on top of it. By 1980, he was presenting plans to transform 800 acres of abandoned mining land into an integrated township. Calling it property development alone makes the challenge sound almost simple, except that it wasn't. The former mine contained enormous pools, barren soil, and steep crater walls. Engineers had to reinforce the slopes, rehabilitate the terrain, and work around a landscape that had been physically reshaped by decades of mining. Earthworms were introduced to help make the barren soil fertile again, and vegetation had to be replanted. Entire sections of land had to be stabilized before large buildings could safely rise from them. Today we would call this brownfield rehabilitation. Cheah later recalled that when he explained this integrated township idea, bankers and even some of his friends thought that he had lost his mind. He had no established property empire, limited capital, and a piece of land that many other developers considered nearly worthless. A conventional property developer buys land, constructs houses or commercial buildings, sells them and then moves on. Cheah wanted Sunway to continue owning and operating many of the township's most important assets. But there was a problem. Why would anyone travel to, study in, or live beside an abandoned mine? Before he could sell the city, he had to create demand for the city. That was why Sunway's first major anchors was not simply rows of houses. Sunway College was founded in 1987. It gave students and their families a reason to enter the township regularly. Sunway Lagoon opened in 1992, occupying 88 acres and sitting around 150 feet below ground level inside the former mine. Instead of hiding the giant mining crater, Sunway turned it into an attraction. Menara Sunway followed in 1993. The resort hotel then opened in 1996. Then Sunway Pyramid arrived in 1997. Monash University Malaysia opened in 1998, followed by Sunway Medical Centre in 1999. Within approximately 12 years, the former mine had acquired education, entertainment, offices, hospitality, retail, and healthcare. And each component created demand for the others. The university supplied students, lecturers, and visiting families. The mall gave them somewhere to shop and eat. The theme park and hotels attracted tourists. The offices brought in workers. The hospitals brought in doctors, patients, and their families. And as more people entered the township, the residential properties became more attractive. As more residents moved in, the mall, schools, restaurants, and hospital gained more customers. Sunway calls this the build, own, operate model. The company did not simply sell properties and leave. It retained ownership of major assets and therefore had a financial reason to keep improving the entire area. That creates a very different business model. When the hospital expands, nearby homes and hotels may become more attractive. When the university grows, the mall gains more customers and demand for accommodation increases. When the theme park attracts more tourists, the hotels and restaurants benefit. Sunway City was not designed as a collection of unrelated buildings. It was designed as a compounding business ecosystem. There was one major weakness in this model. It required enormous amounts of money before the ecosystem began working. Sunway had to pay for land rehabilitation, infrastructure, buildings, educational facilities, a theme park, and hotels while waiting for customers and residents to arrive. That left the company vulnerable when Malaysia entered a recession in the mid-1980s. Cheah has said that Sunway came close to bankruptcy. The company survived and entered the 1990s with even bigger ambitions. Then came the 1997 Asian financial crisis. Property demand collapsed, credit became harder to obtain, interest costs and foreign currency pressures hit highly leveraged companies around the region. Sunway was carrying substantial borrowing and again came close to financial collapse. Cheah had said the company owed banks large amounts of money, including unsecured debt. Instead of avoiding the lenders, he met them personally. He explained Sunway's position and promised that every cent would be repaid if the banks gave the company more time. According to Cheah, HSBC, one of Sunway's largest bankers, continued supporting the group. This story is often used to show that Jeffrey Cheah's reputation and integrity saved Sunway. But that's only part of what happened. A good reputation may convince a bank to give you time, but it does not make the debt disappear. Sunway still had to restructure its operations, consolidate businesses, and dispose of assets. The company even sold the quarry business where Jeffrey Cheah's entrepreneurial journey had begun. A leaner organization eventually emerged centered around Sunway City's property and investment assets and Sunway Holdings' construction-related businesses. Trust bought Sunway time. Asset sales, restructuring, and operational discipline turned that time into survival. That distinction matters because many founders romanticize loyalty from banks and investors. Relationships can keep the door open during a crisis, but the underlying business still has to be repaired. Once Sunway survived the crisis, the power of the ecosystem became much clearer. The company had built more than a successful township. It had created a platform from which entirely new industries could grow. Its construction division helped build the township. Its quarry and building materials operations supported construction. Its property division developed residential and commercial space. The malls, hotels, and theme parks produced recurring operating income. Education created a permanent population of students and academics. Healthcare introduced a business with long-term demand that was less dependent on the property cycle. Today, Sunway operates 13 business divisions, employs approximately 20,000 people, and has more than 5 9,000 acres of township development across Malaysia. In 2025, Sunway Berhad's revenue increased 24.5% to a record 9.8 billion ringgit. Profit before tax rose by 23% to 1.9 billion ringgit. But one of the clearest examples of Sunway's ability to create new industries from the original township is healthcare. Sunway Medical Centre opened in 1999 as one component of Sunway City. By January 2026, Sunway Healthcare had 1,805 licensed beds across its network. In March 2026, Sunway Healthcare's IPO raised 2.86 billion ringgit and valued the hospital group at 16.7 billion ringgit at the offer price. The shares extended their first trading day approximately 28% above the IPO price. And at the time, Jeffrey Cheah said that the combined market capitalization of Sunway's 4 listed entities would exceed 70 billion ringgit. Think about that chain of events. A hospital was initially built to serve and strengthen a township. That hospital eventually grew into a healthcare network valuable enough to anchor Malaysia's largest IPO in almost a decade. This is what Sunway's ecosystem model made possible. The supporting businesses did not remain supporting businesses forever. Some became giants of their own. There is one final decision that changes how the Sunway story should be understood. Sunway College opened during the economic difficulties of the 1980s. It pioneered university twinning programs that allowed Malaysian students to begin international qualifications locally rather than immediately bearing the full cost of studying overseas. Cheah later recalled that banks were reluctant to finance the college. They questioned what a property developer knew about education. He funded it anyway, even as the institution initially lost money. In 1997, the Sunway Education Trust Fund was established so that operating surpluses could be channeled back into scholarships, grants, and the educational institutions themselves. Then in 2010, Jeffrey Cheah transferred his entire equity stake in the Sunway Education Group to the Jeffrey Cheah Foundation in perpetuity. At the time, the transferred stake was estimated to be worth around 700 million ringgit. The foundation now describes those assets as being worth several billion ringgit. This was not simply a billionaire writing a large check. The education shares were placed into a structure intended never to be divided, sold, or inherited by his children. The foundation now owns and governs Sunway University, Sunway Colleges, and Sunway International Schools through a not-for-profit social enterprise model. Any operating surpluses are reinvested into education, research, facilities, scholarships, and grants. By 2025, the foundation said it had awarded 967 million ringgit in scholarships and grants to approximately 87,000 recipients. Cheah also pledged another 500 million ringgit over 5 years to establish a major education endowment. Many founders say they want to build something that survives them. Cheah created a legal structure designed to make that happen. He removed the education assets from the normal family inheritance cycle and placed them into a foundation intended to continue long after he is gone. So what actually made Sunway successful? It began with Jeffrey Cheah's ability to recognize that damaged land could still hold enormous economic value. But the bigger achievement was how that value was engineered. Sunway created reasons for people to visit before the surrounding city fully existed. It built businesses that supplied customers to one another. It retained ownership of major assets, giving the group a financial reason to keep improving the entire township. When debt nearly destroyed the company, Jeffrey Cheah's reputation bought time, but restructuring and asset sales bought survival. The township then became a platform from which education, healthcare, construction, hospitality, and retail could grow into major businesses of their own. And after building the education empire, Cheah placed it into a foundation designed to outlive both him and his family's ownership. Today, Malaysians go to Sunway to study, work, shop, receive medical treatment, attend conferences, stay in hotels, and bring their children to a theme park. It feels like a city that was always supposed to be there, except that it wasn't. It began as 800 acres of exhausted earth that had already surrendered almost everything valuable beneath it. Jeffrey Cheah's greatest achievement was proving that there was still far more value waiting above the ground.